What is up, everybody? Welcome to the DraftKings TV Sweat Show. I'm Soccer Dave, David Kitchen. Joining me, these two guys hates family dinners. Drew Dinkmeyer, aka Dink Piece, and Thomas G, aka Tommy G, 1979. I think there's maybe an underscore in there somewhere. Tommy, you are still muted.
And a great start.
Actually, go
It's the
back.
first, yeah, I was just going to say, it's
Go
the
back.
first time you wanted me to unmute myself. I actually eliminated the underscore. The underscore has been buried.
Oh, I should not have said anything.
Yeah.
Should have
I'll go
just
back on mute.
gone. Oh man. Well, guys, we're talking basically a lot of sport relevant topics. We'll lead off with Derrick Rose being out for surgery. Drew, you're a Bulls fan, so I'll kind of get your take on basically Derrick Rose, and then I'll go to you, Tommy.
It sucks. It's been a pretty crappy week to be a Chicago sports fan. Patrick Kane's out 6 to 10 weeks too, and then my soccer team that I root for, Arsenal, got crushed today. So it's been a good last like 24 hours for my sports cycle, but it sucks.
Your
He's
sport cycle?
my sports cycle. Yeah,
Is
how
that
else do you refer to it? Yeah,
how
pretty much.
often does that come around, your sports cycle?
Often,
Okay.
often, more than once a month.
It makes sense.
Three times in a day right now.
Yeah, exactly. It sucks. I mean, what can they do? You know, he's heading down to the Brandon Roy path in terms of his knees, and it stinks. I don't think they're going to be much worse without him because he wasn't really playing that well. But they can't win a title. The only way they could win a title is if he was right, and he's flashed it for a handful of games this year. And as a Bulls fan, that's what your hope was, that if it got into the playoffs, he could flash that, and maybe they could catch lightning in a bottle. But without him, no title hopes.
Probably
Yeah,
too many flash references for Tommy, but I'll let you kind of take it from here, Tommy.
yeah, I mean, more than anything, you just got to kind of feel bad for the guy. I mean, that's the big thing for me. I know we always try to focus on DFS perspective and try to focus on our teams that we root for and how that will affect it. But I mean, I followed him all through college and obviously through the pros, and he was one of my favorite players. And I'm not a Bulls fan by any means, but I love the heart and how hard he went, and he was just a lot different than a lot of the other point guards that were out there, and that he was an attacker. And it's just sad. It's just really sad to see someone's career go down like that. And people want to give him some crap for how much he got injured early in the season. He was getting a lot of hate, but the bottom line is, I mean, this guy kept going out there after his injuries. He kept grinding it out, and I do think they're much worse off. I'm shocked to hear, Drew. What do you think the reason why you say they're not much worse off? I know his field goal percentage was like 40%,
Yeah.
but
So just the way he's played this season, he's been an inefficient offensive player, and those minutes are going to be filled by an equally inefficient offensive player with lower volume in terms of opportunities. So they're going to pass those opportunities offensively to Jimmy Butler and Pau Gasol, who are more efficient offensive players, and but they have no depth at all at the point guard spot. So, like I said, in the regular season, I don't think it's going to hurt them very much. But in the playoffs, I think it's a nail in the coffin.
what do you think of Brooks?
He's fine. He was playing way over his head in the early part of the season. He was shooting like 45% from three, and that's just not going to last. But he's fine offensively. He provides spacing for them, which Derek doesn't really. Derek is taking a lot of threes, but he's not particularly proficient out there. So Brooks provides spacing, and they can run more of the offense through Jimmy or Joe Kim, kind of in Pow and high low situations. So I think in a regular season perspective, I don't think you'll see a huge drop off. But I think 100% they're a way, way worse team when it comes to the playoffs.
Yeah, and just from like a fellow pro that has had knee problems, it sucks. Like knee problems are the worst. I cannot watch lower leg injury like replays. Like I have to look away. Upper arm injuries, or just arm injuries, or upper body injuries, I can watch. If someone gets hit, in the jujus, then I can watch that too. Lower leg injuries, though, stuff snapping, not like I've never been able to watch that. Like I Paul George, like
Louisville.
someone, yeah, so someone posted like a picture of that the other day. Is like totally like unavoidable. So yeah, it's knee injuries are they're not good. And Drew, you mentioned the player that I think it looks like he's heading down, and that's Roy. And Roy was such a good player. He just didn't have any padding left in his knees, and I mean, he just had really terrible knees, and ultimately that cut short his career. Do you think this is Derrick Rose's career as far as the majority of it?
I mean, I think he'll play in the NBA again. Like I don't think his career is over from that vantage point. But I think even before this injury, there was like 0% chance. There was near 0% chance of him becoming a star, and I think now there's 0% chance of him ever becoming a star again. The way his game is so dependent on the health of his lower legs because he's really built on explosion and getting to the rim, and that's all going to be gone eventually. He's gonna get to the Dwayne Wade status of like the constant lingering knee issues at a much earlier point in his career than it took Wade to get there.
Yeah, I agree. He's definitely not the player that's built for this type of injury. He's not going to be able to overcome this.
Yeah, I kind of have the same thought process. This is going to be uh, this is going to be one of those guys that we look back and say, what could have been. So sad stuff. NBA trade deadline, not trade
Can
line.
we, before we go into that, can we just mention that I must be on the show because there's water spurting out of pipes in NBA arenas that I have stacks going of that game. So
They're back play. They're back playing,
yeah,
so
for
that's
those
good
that
at
don't
least.
know and aren't tuned into it, there's leaks spreading all over the arena in Atlanta right now. So it's not shocking with me being on the show with water mains.
There was supposed to be snow, and there was like talk of postponement. I did not know that like roofs leaking was a part of that. Here in Nashville, we actually had ice last week, and then snow on top of that. It closed down schools for the whole week, and even on Monday and Tuesday, some of the schools were out. But I learned what an ice dam was, and a lot of people in Nashville had leaks in their roofs. Guys, do you know what an ice dam is?
Not a clue.
Okay, it is when the gutters freeze and then snow is on top of that. And so when it starts to melt, there is an ice dam, and so the water finds the cracks in the roof, and leaks through the walls. It's not good, and it happened a lot. I'm not a scientist, but I gotta say it's probably an ice dam situation.
I know about damn ice. I know about damn ice, but I don't know about ice dams.
I'm going to take your word
Drew,
on that.
I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing. You're substituting a cuss word in for a noun. All right, so let's talk about the trade deadline, though. It was crazy last week. I mean, uh, someone said was like very much sarcastic. It's like, oh, great trade deadline. Like nothing's really happening. There was the Denver Portland trade, and this was like 2 or 3 hours before the trade deadline ended. And then all of a sudden, I mean, you had 17 teams that were involved in trades, 18 if you count teams that have picks. So was crazy as far as all the different moves. I put together like a spreadsheet, and it took so long because of all the different players that were involved on that spreadsheet. I hated my life for like those 2 hours I was putting it together.
But I
So many
appreciated it.
news.
I love that. I actually found that to be the best tool. Like when I was doing my Sirius show and all that, looking at your spreadsheet because I'm a visual person, so it was nice to see it laid out like that. So kudos to you, David. I really appreciated that.
As far as the teams that had the best moves, Drew, I'll get your take on it, and I have a feeling that you're going to say one in particular team.
Well, I thought one of the teams that improved themselves the most over the trade deadline, but it didn't happen on deadline day, was Cleveland. And I think we're seeing that now. They've built up that roster where there's a lot of depth and there's a lot of good role pieces to fill in around the stars that they have. So I thought they got a lot better. I thought Oklahoma City got a lot better getting Enos Kanter and Kyle Singler for Reggie Jackson, who they weren't really using anyway because they were kind of using Dion Waiters in that role. And then I thought Phoenix did a good job given the situation that they pretty much had to move Goran Dragic. I thought they did fine to get a replacement with Brandon Knight with him. And the pick that they were giving up with the Lakers, it seemed like they didn't have a high probability of turning that pick this year into something really, really worthwhile. So I thought they did a great job.
Yeah, Dragic was not a happy camper in Phoenix, and it's a tough situation when he let that know, and it looked like there's a possibility that he might have been stuck with the Suns, and like you said, they were able to move him. I thought though that the team you're going to say was the Blazers. It just seemed like that would be some dink analysis. Is that the not so obvious pick of the Thunder, or I wasn't even.
I mean, I'm the chalk guy. Tommy's.
I was going to say that would be my contrarian call.
So yeah, I think you've got us mixed up there.
Yeah, I think the Heat actually did a phenomenal job with that trade, getting Dragic. It's just so unfortunate that Bosch is done now because with that five, they were going to be running out there. There wasn't many better starting fives in the league. I don't know how necessarily deep they are. But if you really look at it from the championship team that they had with LeBron, you're basically taking LeBron off and adding Whiteside, Dragic, and Deng, which, you can't replace LeBron, but that's some three really good players to add to that team with Wade and Bosch and Chalmers coming off the bench. But that Bosch injury just absolutely killed it. I think Oak City, I've been saying it since right before the trade that I think Oak City is the favorite in the West right now. I know a lot of people are arguing with me and calling me crazy, including Empire Maker and all them, but all they really needed was a bench, and I think they're really built for the playoffs now with a bunch of closers in that starting lineup. So I think Oak City was the definite hands-down winner.
They got rid of Perkins. That in itself
is trash.
That
was the best part of the trade for them.
Yeah,
getting rid of Perkins.
It's a victory, and they got Steve Novak. So I definitely think that Oklahoma City was the team that was the ultimate winner. As far as losers, who would you say, Drew, was like a loser in that?
I thought Denver had a really bad trade deadline. The Flalo deal, they didn't get that much for. They had to dump a pick to get rid of McGee. So it negated the great trade they made with Mozgov where they got 2 first-round picks. It negated a lot of that value by having to dump McGee and giving up a first-round pick to do it. And they didn't move Wilson Chandler. They didn't move, Ty Lawson or Kenneth Faried. They don't seem to have a very distinct direction. So I don't know what they're doing there.
I want to ask you, Drew. I've actually been meaning to ask, what the hell were the Sixers doing?
So the Sixers, they just had to take salary, and they're just going to take picks however they can do it. And the Michael Carter-Williams thing, that was just an opportunity for them to basically convert, Carter-Williams into, more picks in the future.
That part I understood. The KJ McDaniels canon in the pick is the one I was so confused about.
McDaniels he's a restricted free agent after this year. Because the way they try to negotiate all their deals in Philadelphia is they try to get 4-year deals where the 4th year is a team option, not a player option. And KJ McDaniels didn't want to do that as a second-round pick, so he decided to negotiate a 1-year deal where he's a restricted free agent after this year. So they were going to have to make a big decision whether to pay him or not coming this next year, and they just wanted to take another pick instead of having to make that decision and get Kanan, who they have more control over for more years. To fill that point guard role. And they're just, they're really just running a tryout system for their whole team. So,
and can we make a final decision on the air to call him either Cannon or Kanan? I'm probably going to stick with Cannon, but is it Kanan officially?
It's Kanan.
So it's not Cannon or Kanan.
All right.
It's Kanan. Kanan is such a
It can't be Kanan, right? It can't
Kanan
be
is such
why can it not be?
Because
it can't be pronouncing it.
It's just like Tommy Mion.
It's like the most fancy way that you could pronounce the name
smart, right?
is always the way that Drew goes. So okay.
So we still have no conclusion. Good. Glad we settled that.
No, it's Kanan. It is Kanan.
It can't be Kanan.
It is.
It's got to be
It is
cat. It's C-A.
Canaan,
It's got to be
like
Ken.
the land, Canaan, not Canaan.
Canon.
Okay. I mean, you might as well. I'm sure like Drew
I'm
calls
hating.
me David Kitchen, instead of Kitchen.
I'm coming.
Kishan. David Kishan.
Tomas. Okay. Let's shift from the Sixers to tanking because the Sixers are good at tanking.
Is that a
And
shift? I think that would be staying on topic, right?
okay,
Tanking.
let's stay on topic with the 76ers and tanking because like the NBA is set up of course for teams to tank and to get rewarded for tanking. This is a story that happened in my neck of the woods, actually where I went to college in that city and where I lived. There were two teams, Smyrna and Riverdale, two girls teams, and I don't know if you saw this on ESPN, but it went like it was just a simple sports segment on local news a couple of days ago, and now it's viral because these teams were missing on purpose. And so basically you had um, these girls that were like intentionally going over like backcourt situation. So what happened was one team subbed out or one team subbed in his JV team, and the other team started just committing these intentional turnovers, missing free throws on purpose. One of the teams was number 8 in the state. And you know why they lost?
To avoid the seed or something. I think I heard about this, right?
Yeah, to avoid the number 1 seed, who is actually the top ranked team in the nation. And they did not want to be in that same side of the bracket. And so the top 2 teams can still advance to the state, and they did not want to be in that team's bracket. So they were throwing the game on purpose, and it was like, I mean, it's laughable. So, question, in high school athletics, do you think that it's okay to tank like that, Tommy?
I mean, I don't really think it's any different. I think it really, I don't even know if it's as much tanking when we're talking about this in any sport as it is doing anything you can that's legal to maintain an edge or gain an advantage. I don't know how it would really be any different than any other tactic you'd use. If you think it gives you a better chance of winning and you think it's going to help your long-term success or short-term success, whether it be a playoff, avoiding a team, or getting draft picks in the NBA, I'm okay with it. I think it's the league's responsibility to do something to prevent it, but I don't knock the teams for doing it. So I hate to see it in the NBA. The main reason I hate to see it in the NBA is because people pay a lot of money for season tickets for these teams, and they go to the games and they want to see Carmelo on the court. They want to see all their favorite players on the court. And when your team's tanking, it's just a horrible product that you've committed to, especially in the New York area where a lot of season tickets are sold out like it is in Boston for extended period of time. So you may have bought these season tickets years ago, not knowing this was going to happen. So there's no way out. So I'm against it from a league standpoint. I think the leagues need to do something about it, but I don't knock the players, teams, and coaches and general managers for doing it.
Drew?
Yeah, my distinction on it is I hate when it comes to the individual game aspect of tanking. Like I think front offices or management who are trying to build for the future and trying to do that through the drafts, and they know that that's the way to acquire top end talent, that they're depleting rosters to kind of build down. I think that's fine. I think that's like a normal part of sports. But when it gets down to the individual game level, and I really think this only happens towards the end of seasons with teams where in an individual game they're actually trying to lose, and I think it's kind of rare. But we saw it with the Bucks this year. With the final game of the season to hold on to the number 1 pick, they sat all their starters in the second half against the Saints where they had a lead. And like, I'm not cool with that stuff. I think that diminishes the integrity of the game. It's obviously really hard to monitor and to enforce, because how do you tell whether a team's benching a player because of poor performance, or they want to get a look at a new player or whatever. But I think when it happens in the individual game level, I'm frustrated by it. When teams, are like rebuilding like the Sixers, that doesn't really bother me as much. What bothers me more is like the way the Knicks have done it, which has been so stupid for years and years that they're stuck in this pattern of being horrific without any upside.
Yeah, and just from a high school level, the two teams that did it, basically were not allowed to play their next game. Their season was over. So the seniors, that is how they finished out their career, and they were fined, and so like they were punished because of that, and the administration got involved, yada yada yada. So that would be, I guess, my next question, Tommy. Should those players, if it was the coaches kind of that were orchestrating this, explaining to them, should the players have been punished along with the coaches as far as not being able to play the rest of the basketball tournament?
Well, in that situation, you said it was the coaches or the players who were solely responsible. Were both
Well, I
in
mean,
on
the
it, or were they
players,
advised by the coaches to do what they did?
right? The players were advised, and the coaches definitely were not saying don't do this. So I'm not sure exactly what happened, but it's the coaches were completely okay with it. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to see the players get penalized because they're kids. They're supposed to be listening to their coaches. They're supposed to be listening to their mentors, the adults that are around them. So you're kind of talking out both sides of your mouth. If you're saying listen to your elders, listen to your coaches, respect what they tell you, and then you're saying ignore them at the other token if it's something that's wrong for the game. So if we could prove that the coaches were in on it and the coaches were advising them to do that, I 100% agree the coaches should be suspended not only for the rest of the season, probably for the foreseeable future, at least a year. But the kids should be able to continue to play and find someone else to coach the team because they're doing what they're supposed to do. If you're a young kid, you're supposed to listen to your coach.
Drew, do you agree with that, or do you think that the whole if one is punished, the whole team gets punished mentality should have was correctly enforced here?
Yeah, I think the kids should have been able to play, but I don't know how you solve that situation because do you just advance the team that ended up winning, like even though they didn't mean to win, or do you have them like try to play the game over with actual intent?
You punish them by making them play the top
yeah,
team.
Yeah.
they both have to play the top team.
Yeah.
I don't know, but like I agree with Tommy. I think the bulk of the punishment should come on the coaching because that's just it's high school sports. Like, come on.
Think about if you're one of those kids. I mean, no kid ever wants to lose, even if it makes rational sense to them. Like we should lose, we'll have a better advantage. When you're a kid, you think you're invincible. You think you're going to beat anyone. You think you're superhuman. So I feel bad for some of these kids that one were in disagreement with it and were forced to do it, or because their teammates were doing it, and the other ones who really just didn't have any say in this matter, and now their season's over. It just doesn't seem fair to me.
But they weren't forced to do it. I mean, if you saw the videos, one girl was like dribbling like this right in front of the girl, and the girl would not steal it from her. And so the girl looks back at the coach and then intentionally dribbles into the back court. They were trying to tank so bad that at one point, one of the girls tried to score on her own basket. And the refs called a timeout and said, we are not going to make a mockery out of the game by trying to, be basically like who can score the most on their own basket, like some sort of
all the refs should have done was just called the teams together and said whoever loses this game is going to get a win, and then after the game told them they were just kidding.
Yeah.
And everything would have been solved.
I think it sucks, but it also, like, the thing about high school sports is that it's more than just sports. As a former high school basketball coach, there are life lessons that you learn, and this is one of those life lessons. And the girls, they definitely acted out what was, you could tell they did not want to play number one team. And so as much as it sucks, I think that the punishment was justifiable. And, it's just one of those things where, hey, it's life. I mean, I tore my ACL with 4 games left in the season, and I didn't get the 2,000 point club. You know what? That's life. You know what I'm saying, Tommy?
I hear you. I actually read all about that in the local. It was in the USA Today. It was heartbreaking. It was almost as sad as the Derrick Rose situation.
Tommy, next time you're in Nashville, I will bring the scrapbook of.
I'm sure you will. I'm 100% positive the scrapbook will be with you, whether I ask for it or not. I'm sure it'll be
the best. The best was when I had a record. My record was 44 points in a game, and Ben Pritchett, aka Natural Slugger, rebounded one of my misses. Like, we would have had overtime for me to score even more, but he had a putback, so he scored like four. He scored like 4 points because Ben's not a scorer. He's like a guy. He took pride in his picks. So like he had the putback, and the headline in the paper the next day was not Kitchen's 44 points. It was Pritchett's putback. And he took great pride.
What a glory hog.
So you're still upset about him winning the game for your team because you didn't get a chance to score 50 in overtime?
And you just wanted to have the conversation about how you thought those girls should be punished because of tanking? I think you were actually encouraging Slugger to tank the game and bring it to overtime. So I think we should suspend you from DKTV. Shut your video off.
Like, I wasn't trying to miss on purpose. Every game winner that I hit, I was trying to hit it. Like,
well, it's okay if you hit it, but it's not okay if he hit it.
Exactly.
Right.
But you're right. Like, winning overtime to score more might have been the first indication that daily fantasy was in my future. So, do you think that daily fantasy ever gets into high school sports, Drew?
No. Oh my God, I hope not. Oh my God.
I mean, I would play it, but it can't.
Oh my God. That would be terrible.
With the way that like amateur athletics are moving, I would not be surprised. And like
Tommy, they've got scouting reports on like fifth graders now.
Right.
It's getting ridiculous.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine doing the research for a high school game?
I mean, Pete would have a huge edge. Pete would have a huge edge.
Pete's
I'd be glad I'm working for Scout at that point because they're studying kids at like 12 years old in my company. So we'd blow up.
Yeah, Pete would be like this. Oh boy! All the money for the donkey.
All over YouTube.
All the money for the donkey. Oh boy!
He's such a donkey. Can we make fun of him more that he's not here?
He always does the head tilt when he rubs his hands together. Oh!
Yahtzee.
It's like the screws are not exactly screwed on his neck.
Insert hot sauce here.
Insert hot sauce, yes. All right, let's move on to another topic. The NBA, Adam Silver last month talked about expansion of 4 teams into Europe. And I'm curious to get your guys' thoughts on it as far as what you think about it, number one, and then we'll kind of toss around the idea of what that would mean for lineup locks. Drew, I'll start with you.
Yeah, the idea of just like 4 teams randomly being placed in Europe to me is ridiculous. I don't like logistically until we figure out a way to make travel a lot more efficient than it is currently. I just think it's a stupid idea. I understand the growth perspective of trying to grow the game, but I think there's better ways to grow the game than just throw some teams over there and then have absurd travel schedules for your league that already has lots of issues with scheduling. So I'm not behind the idea at all. I think the only way that type of situation could work is if you had a whole league in Europe that was the equivalent of like AL, NL in Major League Baseball, and then you had the winner of each league, meet in the finals, and there was no interleague play or anything like that. I think that's the only way that global expansion makes any sense.
This whole topic kind of slipped past me a little bit over the last couple of days, and I just read up on it before the show. And this is so annoying because I really came on here to argue with Drew as much as possible, but I keep friggin' agreeing with him on everything he's saying. But this little Twitter thing that happened with us a couple of weeks ago, Drew, might actually be continued. But it's a little weird. But no, I agree. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. It's so stupid. It's ridiculous. It's obviously all about money. You can't do this to these players. You can't have a situation where, and this is what pisses me off with a lot of these leagues, especially the NFL, where they pound the player health drum, and we got to keep these guys healthy, and we can't get them hurt, and we care about their futures as humans after they get out of the league. You can't have these guys on flights going to Europe and London and France and then coming back. I mean, first of all, their bodies are worn down enough playing the rate that they play, where we already see a lot of the veterans having to sit on back-to-backs and having to reduce their minutes. Now you're going to send them all the way out to Paris to play a game and come back 2 days later. It'll throw the whole schedule off. It'll be unfair. It doesn't make sense. No one's going to want to play on those 4 teams in Europe. They have a huge disadvantage. They're never going to be able to compete because of the travel. And my recommendation was actually going to be just start half the league over there and build a league in Europe, build a league here, or just start a kind of NBA part 2 over there in Europe and try and make that work. But it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, and I pray they don't do it.
Yeah, the 4 teams is difficult, like you said, Drew, unless like they really up the ante in like transportation. Like there was supposed
to like time travel. in order for that.
Exactly.
Yeah, like
if we have like time travel machines, then yes, I'd be all for it.
You guys obviously don't watch any movies or shows because that like would mean no DFS. If there's time travel, someone would screw up something and there would be no DFS. There'd be no world. Do you guys watch Lost? Come on. So basically, 4 teams, like they would have to be. Did you hear about the rail? Like it was the world's fastest train that it was going to be billions of dollars, but like this super train that would be extremely fast and go
on water.
Not on water,
it would
but
need to get out there. Europe.
Right.
Do you understand the geographical challenges of Europe? I'm not sure, you're talking about a train. And,
there's no tracks that go from here to France, right?
Right. But they're like boats, though, right?
Yeah, no,
like
trains aren't boats.
Trains aren't boats. Dude.
Yeah, they're different. Like
guys,
just saying, it's a little different. Not
to
much.
Doubt the possibility of anything except for time travel, because that's just silly.
Even your dog looked up at you in the background, going, "What the hell is he talking about?"
Yeah, she's probably not too happy with these trains. No, but like the fact is, they have stuffed like a computer 5 years ago into our phone, like a massive $5,000 computer into our phones now that are more powerful. So, like doubting travel, or like any sort of like Jetsons thing is it's not out of the question. But like you said, until they solve that,
it's out of the question right now, though.
I think me and Drew are actually doubting our whole entire argument after that comment.
Yeah.
You brought something to the table that I didn't even think about. Yeah, that
really changed it.
That is not
you
Jetsons.
Motor-booted the microphone.
That's not motor. It's not motor. Don't pervert the Jetsons, you son. Tommy, do your best Jetsons impersonation.
Rostro.
That's the only character. That's the only character I would have remembered. Yeah. So I was just
gonna say like, but the vehicle, like it was
do Scooby. I could do Shaggy. Zoink, Scoob.
That was actually really good.
That was pretty good.
Not bad, right?
I'm
here. I could do a bunch. Kermit, Shaggy.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a
2.
few. That's it.
That was like
I usually get laid right after the second one. That's never had to go to a third.
I wasn't going to call you out on it, but when you said you enjoyed Derrick Rose's college career, all 1 year of it,
yeah, but he was a monster. And do you know where he went, David?
He went to Memphis and he played for Calipari.
Exactly. And my cousin is a huge Memphis fan. He actually lives out in Tennessee.
He had some free throw issues.
Yes, he did. Oh man, and Chalmers. Anyways, all right, let's go. Let's get back to the topic at hand. Drew, you are a big soccer fan, and by a big soccer fan, I mean you just picked it up this summer, so you know about like relegation. I think the idea of having almost like the NBDL over in Europe and having like relegation would solve some issues. Like no one would like want to tank if they knew they were going to be going over to Europe. But then again, I guess they would have to play against those European teams.
But the problem is that means promoting European teams, which we just talked about, is a terrible idea.
Yeah,
so,
it was not even in the middle. Yeah, it's not even in the middle of the idea that I realized this is terrible. It was like at the very end where it's like,
just the fact that you're still trying to justify this.
No, I'm not. Like, I realized right when I was about to connect that last dot that, hey, this is not a dot. It's actually a dash. So, yeah, okay. We're on the same page then. Let's move on.
And by the way, just to let you know, I put the link in the Skype. I don't know if I'll tweet it out. It is canon. Tommy G. Point. I sent it out. Like they have a link on clutchfans.net that actually gives the pronunciation of all the 2013 NBA draft prospects, and it is Isaiah Cannon.
Yeah, but like these are
doesn't matter. Nope, there's no teleportation.
There's
no trains. It's Cannon. That's what we're running with. But Drew, you could still say Kanan because it's
I'm gonna roll with Kanan. I like Kanan. Kanan, Tommy Leone.
Yeah,
I'd like to
see
Drew's fancy pronunciation of the Greek freak.
Oh no, I practiced that one. Giannis Antetokounmpo. I know that one because there's no real fancy. The only way to say it is the fanciest way.
Right. It is the best way. There's no
So
way to make that
yeah,
better.
yeah.
Antetokounmpo. All right. Let's get on to basically the DFS impact of the European stuff. Like, would that mean that we would have to start games in the middle of the day? Because that might not be so bad.
I think the impact will be nothing is never going to happen.
Well, it would be bad if it's just like 4 teams, because then you have these 2 random games, or 3 or 4 or however
Yeah, but
many.
you got DraftKings. It'd be like baseball, where you could have a couple of day games. You got the Cubs.
Yeah, but that's not how it would end up working. They'd end up creating separate slates. It wouldn't be that great. If they had a whole league over there, it would be
Don't
great.
you speak for DraftKings? You are not the DraftKings.
They're not gonna set those times to fill games earlier in the day just to accommodate 2 extra games. They're going to take their time to get those games.
They're gonna want those games intentionally be totally separate from the normal slates, just so they get more viewing on TV and stuff.
There would still be all day slates. There's still all day slates on Saturday and Sunday. Like, you can play head to head on DraftKings.
So what time would those games start? What time would the games?
2, like 2 in the afternoon.
EPL so that would basically, because you got to remember, it's not like just a Saturday slate. The only time you really see day games consistently are on the weekends, right? So for someone like myself and a lot of other people,
I'm talking about for baseball.
It would crush us for DFS.
No, it would be another option. It wouldn't crush you. It would be another option. It's like
I don't think it would be a highly targeted option.
It's not replacing. Oh, Drew, you play all the obscure sports. You're telling me that you would not play all day slate?
I would not play like a 2-game slate, and I
okay,
think that's
but you
what
would
it would
play
be.
an all day slate, which would be available
On occasion. I mean, I like those more, but they don't fill with the same volume.
Okay. All right. Well, for baseball season, if I ever see you in all day games, I'm going to call you out.
Here we go. All right. Bring it, Kishen.
Oh, I will. I'm not even
going out.
David Kishen.
Yeah. These are not even like, it's not even a gun. You know what this is, Drew? You know what this is? You know what I'm bringing?
I'm afraid. I'm really afraid. Okay.
I'm bringing a freaking Kanon
because that hand gesture, a lot of people might think of something else, David.
And don't do that.
And I was a little bit
that totally
concerned.
Differentiates it from that. So keep that pinky tucked.
I thought that Tommy was the one that would have to worry about. All right.
He brings me to his level.
Pete last time, remember? So I'm actually being good. I want to try and stay here for another show or 2.
Hey, thank you, Tommy. I
took the over of 2.5 shows.
I appreciate someone bringing a professional tone to this show. All right. We're going to go over the mailbag. And if you're not following at DraftKings TV, you need to, and use hashtag DKTV whenever you want to reach us, insult us, compliment us.
Insult us. Compliments are stupid.
Mostly insults, even the thinly veiled ones.
Preferably Dave. Insult.
Yes. All right. Justin Katzman, at Justin Katzman 16, hashtag Ask Dink. Who would be given the handicap if you played Derrick Rose in a game 1v1?
Come on now. That too soon. Way too soon. But I would still be the handicapped basketball player in that situation. Him on one leg is going to be way superior than anything I've got on a basketball floor.
I agree. The question would be how many points are you going to be spotted? Tommy, how many points would you spot if you were placing the over under? How many points would you spot Drew playing against Derrick Rose on a bum knee?
Well, how far after surgery are we talking? Are we talking while he's in the hospital bed? Because if Derrick Rose is still in the hospital bed, I'd make it about even money. If it was a rolling bed, it would be even money.
Let's say it's the
same. I can't dribble around a rolling bed.
If he's able to move at all, and Rose is just hobbled, then I would say it would be on a game to 21. I would say it'd be a 20.5 point favorite.
Yeah, if the game is being played to 24, I think that Drew should be spotted at 18 points. Like, there's no way.
Oh, I would lose that. Like
Yeah. You could not make 3 baskets on a Derrick Rose.
Well, could I get 3 shots off? Like against a professional athlete, even on like one leg, I don't know if I can get a shot off.
Now, Dave, on the other hand, would be the favorite by like.
Well, before
such a phenomenal athlete, even
before
with
the knee injury.
No, before the knee, we would blank him.
We're even. We're basically even because we both have knee injuries.
Yeah.
But no, Justin did not include in his tweet. So I'm with you guys as far as the way the game should be played is make it, take it, or pinochle, as some people call it. But if it was straight up with no make it, take it, Drew, you'd be able to get 3 shots off.
I don't know, man.
They might not be pretty.
You have never seen me play basketball.
Are you like the high school girls that dribble up here?
I don't have a left hand. I have a little. I used to have a little bit of a jump shot, but I can't like shoot off the dribble because I've got pretty bad handles.
Yeah. But you're pretty good at skee ball, right?
I'm good at skee ball though.
Let's ask the real question: if you and Derrick Rose played skee ball, to I don't know what you play skee ball to, but how big a favorite would you be?
Yeah, I'd be a pretty big favorite. What I'd probably do is the same thing I did to Pete, which, early on the first skee ball game, you kind of give a half effort. You go for the 20s. Unfortunately, Pete couldn't even beat me when I was just going for 20s.
Well, Pete's a dumb.
I'm going to get my revenge.
But it was close enough. But it was close enough that he was like, all right, let's do it again. And I was like, all right, well, I can just keep going for 20s. I didn't even go for 30s or 40s. So,
Hey, Drew, how many points would you spot me in a game of table tennis?
In a game of table tennis?
Yeah. Playing to 15.
I'd spot you 3.
Oh, I'd wax you.
Well,
straight
the DK offices will await us.
Oh, they don't have ping pong there.
The New York office.
Oh, okay, very
nice. Then I can play. Actually, Drew, I'm a sneaky, nasty skee ball player, so.
Oh,
I know I wasn't there.
You shouldn't have let me know.
This challenge.
No, you should have hustled me.
This challenge is accepted. No, there's no hustling. Drew.
All right, let's move on. Let's move on. Another Ask Dink question. This one from Ryan Ardedge K15 on Twitter. He says, Dink, is it true that you can suck a golf ball through a hose? This is the worst question ever.
This is the best question ever.
No.
By the way, just so you know, RDEGK15 is my other Twitter handle. So I'm glad you guys read this on the air.
That would make sense.
Yes. So I'm curious, Dink. Can you?
I do not have that kind of lung capacity.
You just got so much less attractive.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Because you're still hot, but you just.
This one from
great question.
At Benny R11, that's Benny11, and he is DK Playbook contributor. He says, #Ask Dink, how badly would Serena Williams beat you in tennis? Straight sets? Question mark.
So this is an awesome question. This is actually something we debated a lot in college on the men's tennis team. Like what level of college tennis player would match up equivalent with what level of female professional tennis player? And at that point, one of the guys who was ranked like 800 in the world played Venus Williams, and he was smoking cigarettes on changeovers, and he beat her like 6-1, 6-2 or something like that. So we decided that at our level as collegiate tennis players, the Williams sisters were probably an even match at that point. I'm way out of practice now, so she would destroy me. But at that point, we thought we were probably even matchup. They might be a little bit better. But anybody else on the women's tour, we thought we would be the favorites in a matchup with.
I think that's fair, too, because when I was at Nova, our baseball team challenged the girls' soccer team to a game of soccer and beat them, and actually the girls' basketball team to a game of basketball and beat them. So I wouldn't be surprised with that. I'd bet on you.
The girls' basketball team would always come to the rec center, and they fouled more than any other people that we played.
Oh, and you got to use their ball, too. That's
no.
That's the best part. Use their ball. It's like you just throw shots like this and make it.
Well, Tommy, I'm a man, so we play with the man's ball.
They wanted to play with the man's ball?
Yeah, they were they had something to prove.
Then they can't make a shot.
They are, but the MTSU girls team is actually they were, I'm not sure about anymore, but they would go, like they made it to the Sweet 16. They were ranked nationally. So they would always come in the gym, and it was like it was like high school ball. It was really good basketball because these girls were some of the best players in the nation. But I think that like the one sport that it would be tough to compete with as just regular athletic guys on the girls circuit is college volleyball. Like if you've watched a collegiate volleyball game, like a high
As
level,
regular guys, yeah. As guy volleyball players, no. As regular guys, yeah.
just like regular athletic guys. Like I
Yeah,
consider
I agree.
myself a pretty good volleyball player, but like I it was humbling playing sand volleyball with the girls team, who also was a Sweet 16 team. Because these girls are 6 foot and they like just the way that like if you're playing legally, like no carries or anything else, there's just it's like impossible. That's all I've always said. That's like the one sport that I don't think that I could compete with. That and women's rugby because they scare me. All right. Next question from Elementus Rat, Alpha Aussie, or as Drew says, Alpha Aussie. Says if you could have season tickets for any sports team in the whole world, which team would it be? This is a good question. Tommy, I'll go with you.
This is tough because if you're thinking about it from a fiscal standpoint, it would obviously be something along the lines of the Yankees because you could turn around and sell those if you didn't have to and have extreme monetary value from it. If
Especially
you
if the market was bad at the
right,
time.
exactly. So if you have the what I would say is it would probably I mean I'm an SEC guy like you, Dave. So it'd probably be a college football season tickets, either in the SEC or the best looking girls school out in California, like maybe like a UCLA, maybe an Arizona State off California, Rose Bowl. I would say that because then you got the tailgating every weekend. You got the post parties that happen after all the girls are drunk, and you got the chaos in the stadium in a 100,000 person venue. So one of those two.
Drew,
Cubs, easy for me, man. I would love to have some Cubs season tickets, and I think right now would be a great time to have Cubs season tickets because I think they're going to be a very healthy investment the next few years with the Cubs farm system the way it is.
How do you see them this year, Drew? And I got a secondary question with Chris Bryant. When do you think he's up?
Yeah, so I think I'm probably going to let the cat out of the bag here on the Chris Bryant thing because I don't think a lot of people have figured this out yet. But he only needs 9 games of service time in the minor leagues to extend another year
That's
of control. And so I think a lot of people are going to project like a month or a month and a half, and I think it's going to be like a week and a half
good.
before he's called up. So I think there's a little bit of value now if you're drafting like season-long teams for Chris Bryant. I don't know that it'll be there a month from now when people figure that out, but I think they'll be. I think their floor is probably around hovering around 500, and I think their ceiling is competing this year
I think their
for,
floor is
for
500.
for a division. I think it's around 500. Yeah. I think because they have so much depth, and they're going to be a team that's going to use all the platoon advantages with Joe Madden. They're going to use all the bullpen advantages. And they've got a lot of starting. I think they're going to be. I think they're going to be good. I think their ceiling is hanging around, kind of like the Pirates, like 2 or 3 years ago, before they broke that streak where they had never been better than 500 forever. They got off to that really good start, and then they like faded down the stretch, and they kind of finished like third in the division. I kind of think that's what's going to happen with the Cubs this year.
Yeah, I like them a lot too. I just a floor of 500 might be a little poor, but I think that would be a bad year for them. I agree with that. They
Yeah,
obviously could finish worse, but
yeah, yeah.
is it my Drew, you there? And we are back, I think, maybe. So I think we were talking about my turn to speak. And
I think we skipped that.
Okay. Well,
So what are your? I'll ask you. I'll ask you, host. What if you can get season tickets to any event, Mr. Kishen? What would you choose and why?
I would choose probably the Cubs.
And if it was not the Cubs, because Drew just gave that answer,
right?
What would you choose and why?
Like it would have to be like something in the SEC for football.
And if it wasn't the SEC, because I gave that answer, what would you choose and why?
Cameron Indoor.
There we go. Actually, that's a good one. That's a good one.
There's not a bad seat in the house, and you're always watching potential pros, guys that will one day be there. All right. Speaking of guys that will one day be there, ask Dave. This from Johnny Minor at Johnny_Minor. What are your hard and fast rules for picking NBA rosters? I'm glad this question was sent to me and not Tommy. I think the only rule is to kind of be flexible. Like the only rule is to make sure that you don't have any rules, and that might sound like a cop out, but like every night is going to be different. To have one set strategy for DFS NBA is not setting yourself up for long-term success because each night is different. And I like to play point guards and power forwards, but like the other night, there are so many centers, and tonight even there's so many centers in play that you have to weigh that. So every day is different, and so that would be my hard and fast rule, and really just making sure that you're keeping up with the news because as far as NBA goes, it's all about the news. And very rarely do you pick a team in the morning that is going to be the same as it is right before lineup lock. So that would be my hard and fast rule is just to be flexible. All right. Speaking of someone that's not really flexible, ask Dink. This from Grind Till the End at Tango and Cash FF. Is Brian Shaw a dink?
I don't appreciate that question.
It's the question. That is the question.
I don't appreciate people using dink in a derogatory fashion.
Yeah.
I also saw somebody else on the hashtag DKTV ask, why am I called Dink? My last name is Dinkmeyer, and I didn't have a choice in that, so it's a lot easier for people to say. And it is not a derogatory term. Brian Shaw is a bad coach. He's not a dink. If he was a dink, he'd be a great coach.
He was a dink.
Sensitive. All right. This one comes from, again, Benny11 at BennyR11. Ask Tommy, if you could choose your own cast for Jersey Shore DFS, who would be on it besides at Real Pilar Lostra and at the Rolly Sand?
Cast of the Jersey Shore that I would choose. I would go Gronk, myself obviously, along with Pilar and Lisa. Gronk, Manziel, Dennis Rodman, Lindsay Lohan, Miley Cyrus, and Katy Perry, just so you'd get jealous when you see me all over her. So I could take tons of pictures and tell her I know her better than you do right now.
I don't think you understand the question.
Yes. It's if I could choose my own cast for the Jersey Shore.
Jersey Shore DFS.
Oh, I thought that was just hashtag DFS. For Jersey
It
Shore
is.
DFS. Well, that was a lot of DFS right there. Gronk, Manziel. Let's go Josh Gordon. So we got to go all dudes. I don't want to be on the Jersey Shore with a bunch of dudes. Guido Rob Lowe, is he in DFS?
All right.
So who else is there? There's no Guidos in the NFL. Gronk would be the closest thing, probably. Right? Who else is there that's a Guido? And there's no Italians in the pros. We don't make it that far.
What about Gindy?
Mark Gindy.
Oh, you mean like DFS players?
Yes.
No one can hang with me. No. Yeah, Gindy, I'll let Gindy in. I'll let Gindy in. I'll bring Pete in just to make fun of him.
Right.
Yeah, there's really not much. There's no one in there at DFS. There's no Guidos.
Last one, Joe Williams at Weaselblade. Nice name, Weaselblade. Ask Dink, ask Dave, ask Tommy. Explain some of the slang terms you're using for us newcomers. What is fade, tilt, and what is ETC? Tommy?
Fade would be one of my favorite things to do, and it often bites you in the you-know-what. So with fading, what you're doing is you're actually avoiding a very popular player. So in a situation where you know a guy's going to be highly owned, what you're going to do is not roster him to play someone else, and that would be known as a fade. Pete also tried to refer to it as shorting when we wanted to name it to stocks, and he was bullish on everything. Tilting is what I do on a nightly basis, and that is watching your team in stressing out tremendously as oftentimes it goes up in flames, which causes you to act out irrationally and oftentimes punch walls, break remotes, and even laptops. And ETC is etc.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Nice. I was hoping you would name that one. Drew, what are some slang terms that you can think of that would help newcomers?
Pivot. So pivot just means that you're moving
Pivot?
from one decision to another, and it's usually because of news or something that happens that changes your opinion. So you're pivoting off of a player onto another player. That's one that I use often. And what else?
I think even something as simple as GPP we get on Sirius a lot, and I know you get it when you were on the air a lot, Ding. GPP is guaranteed prize pool. Those are tournaments. So when you hear, because I know in the write-ups that we all do for our specific sites and companies, it's a lot of GPP plays. Normally what a GPP play would mean, or a tournament play, is someone who's a little too risky for cash games, someone who probably has a little bit of a lower floor, but does have a high ceiling, which is going to be more of an all or none type player. And the term donkey is becoming popular too. That's referring to CSU Ram.
Oh, yes.
Or donkey cheat.
Or donkey cheat, correct.
Train would be the one that I would think that maybe help people. Train is when you have multiple teams running the same roster, and that way they can get multiple tickets if it's a qualifier, or more prizes if it's a GPP, as Tommy calls, tournament.
It's my Joyzy accent right there.
Joyzy.
One of the words I really over-enunciate in an improper way.
The other term that was this is like how non-poker background I have. When I first started playing DFS over 3 years ago, I saw this term and I just did not I had to Google it because I didn't know what it was. That term was staking. Staking is when basically someone gives you money to play and they get a portion of the profits. Most of the time they're assuming the risk in staking you. So someone staked me by giving me X amount of dollars. I would play with that, and then if it hits, they would get a percentage of that. So that'd be one of the terms that me personally, I was like, what is staking talk? And I actually had to Google it. That's how green behind the ears I was as far as poker went. So good stuff, guys. Tommy,
and by the way, for a teaser for next show, I'm going to give you the other definition of running a train.
I have a feeling it's not going to be centered around Christmas.
The under just hit, didn't it? I'm not making that 2.5 show thing, am I?
Yeah.
Get him out now.
Well, Tommy, I hate that you're going to be your last show, but really appreciate you coming on. Tommy G You can find him on Twitter at TommyG1979.
No. That's the old name. I changed it. At Tommy
At
G
Tommy G
DFS.
DFS. Gotcha.
Right. D for David.
Gotcha. Because 1979 will let people know how old he is.
I'm getting too old. I'm 35 now. I got to get the age
Hint,
out.
he's old. Drew Dinkmeyer at Drew Dinkmeyer. He's really original with that one. And then me at Soccer Dave. Guys, we'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us. Later. This is when the music starts happening and we're just like jamming out.
That was my favorite part of the other shows.